everybody, and welcome to the Brewery Underground Podcast. I'm Steve Sullivan, joined, of course, by Scott Touron. And on today's episode, we are coming to you from Cyanide Cider. We are happy to be joined by the owner, Grayson Miller.
You just poured us some cider directly from the tank, I might add. Literally, what are we sipping on here?
Okay, so we're sipping on a dry cider, predominantly featuring the Davinet apple. This Davinet apple has been called the red wine of apples. You're going to experience a little bit of dryness and a little bit of tannic activity that gives it some of the characteristics you might find in red wine. It doesn't necessarily have a country of origin that it leans towards as a cider, other than some of the more European styles tend to be a little more dry. But this is one that is really more featuring a particular apple than a particular style of cider.
Okay, let's take a sip. We've not sipped on it yet.
Cheers to Davinet.
Cheers. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah, cheers to everybody. Absolutely.
Yeah, that is unlike any other cider I've had, honestly. Right. Yes. That is not your traditional, I wouldn't say traditional, your run-of-the-mill cider. That is not what this is.
Absolutely not.
I love the dryness to it.
And, even though cider has, by nature, a really light body, you're still kind of getting that full body mouthfeel from the tannins in those apples.
Wow, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah. It's astounding. That's really been the funnest part of this journey, is getting to learn the different apples out there that you don't see in the grocery store. You're not going to buy this apple in the grocery store. It tastes bad as a fruit. It's not pleasant to consume.
Oh, really? Okay.
In the juice form, there's a lot of versatility there.
Where do you get something like this, and how do you even discover it?
So we buy all of our apples right now from Michigan. We're in talks with trying to get, at least on a seasonal basis, some sort of Tennessee cider going. That's a big goal from us. We love the Farm to Tap program. But when we're looking at the cider making states, they need to be colder than Tennessee for them to really flourish.
Okay, gotcha.
So you're looking at Pacific Northwest, you're looking at Michigan, you're looking at New York State, and Michigan, for us on the East Coast, has the perfect blend of low shipping costs and high volume of production.
Okay.
So you'll find a lot of the cideries located in this part of the country are sourcing their fruit from Michigan, and they do a lot of great work there. We've met a really nice orchard that has really helped us out and has really sent us a lot of cool samples and stuff to let us learn about these apples and showcase the product.
That's amazing. We just talked about this. You poured this directly from the tank.
Yep.
And never seen this or heard this before. It had a head on it initially, but it disappeared almost immediately.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because you just taught me something I would never thought about.
Absolutely. So cider is acidic and it has no protein content. Those two factors together are going to completely eradicate any head that you might see. If you've got a head on your cider, it has been either heavily back sweetened or it's been heavily fruited, which is a little different than back sweetening. It has something in it other than distilled fruit juice or fermented fruit juice. Just the fruit doesn't have the same qualities that grain has in beer, so we're really not expecting to see head. And it's for behind the bar. It's a dream to pour. No foam, easy pours. It's great.
Yeah, much more efficient, I'm sure. Right?
Oh yeah. It can throw some people. They say, it looks still. Then you sip it and it's sparkling. But we are serving it carbonated, of course. This one in particular needs a little more time in carbonation, but you can still kind of get that carbonation there. A little bit of carbonic acid as well, helping balance out the profile. But yeah, you're not gonna have the same expectation that you would for beer.
Yeah, I would have never thought about that before. I just saw it. I just witnessed it.
All right. Now, at the time that we're recording this, you're not open yet, but when this podcast drops, you are going to be open. And talk about that, because the excitement, it has to be really, really extreme for you to get this place open.
Oh yeah, we can't wait. And if you're in Nashville and you're listening, we hope you come check us out. We've got a couple of soft openings for friends and family, and if you're listening, you're friends and family. So don't feel like this isn't for you. This is going to be on June 21st and June 23rd from noon to 9 p.m. But follow us on the socials. You'll get all the information about those soft openings. A week later, we're going to be looking at the grand opening, so that'll be June 29th. And so if you're listening to this in the future, and it's after the 29th, what are you doing? Get over here.
Get over here.
Drink some cider.
And also, let's talk about the location.
Yeah, absolutely. So we put this one in South Nashville. We're in the Woodbine area of town. We are really excited to be here. We're just a stone's throw from Geodis, the soccer stadium. We're just really close neighbors with Phonolux, a really cool vinyl shop. Dozen Bakery just bought the building next to us. They've got a long road ahead of them, I'm sure, with build-outs and codes and red tape, just like we had. But once they open, we're going to be fast friends. Really excited.
Absolutely. They're going to want to be friends with you, too.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Baked goods and cider? Come on. But we're going to be having our own food as well. We're going to have Barry and Babe running our kitchen. Some really good Mexican-style pulled pork. Serve it in tacos, serve it on top of ramen, serve it over nachos. Really, really delicious menu that we are excited. It's really cool to kind of go south of the border with some of those flavors because they actually embrace the gluten-free side of cuisine, and of course cider is gluten-free as well, so we're going to be really friendly for anybody who has an intolerance there.
Wonderful, wonderful. So go back a minute. You said you've been thinking about or you've been working on the cidery or thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
Can you put a pin in when that idea kind of first sparked for you?
We got serious about this 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we found this location. It had a prior tenant. We had to wait for their lease to expire. We had to get our building permit. We had to start the process of that. We also had to learn how to make cider, right? So I'm brewing professionally on the beer side of things, but I didn't know how to make cider. So we bought some tickets, went over to Chicago in January, I believe was, I think it was last year, 2023, I believe was CiderCon in Chicago in January. Really cold. Really cold. But wow, we learned so much about the craft. Met some really cool people making cider in some unbelievable ways. Tried some stuff that blew our minds. We learned and grew to really appreciate what cider can be, and that was definitely the catalyst in my education and trying to get my head around what cider can be and how to make it right, and kind of build on my brewing knowledge to take on this new fermentable.
So, of course, for people that are new to this podcast and maybe not familiar with who you are as well, you already own Crazy Gnome Brewery in East Nashville because we had you on last year.
Yeah,
episode 5.
Yeah, you were one of our first guests on the Brewery Underground podcast. So when we all ran into each other a couple of months ago, it was the Beer Babes at your event at Crazy Gnome and Dark Shadows as well. And I was talking to you then, and one of the things that I remember you kind of saying was how much everything has changed in the craft beer market and cideries as well. Can you really kind of go into that, of like your strategic thinking into, keeping up with the evolution of it all?
Yeah, so of course we didn't decide to open a cidery in a vacuum. We wanted to expand our business. We were looking at a second location. We had to ask ourselves, is this going to be Crazy Gnome version 2, or is it going to be a completely new idea? And around the time we were trying to make those decisions, we're looking at the market, and we're seeing a lot of our friends struggle. We're seeing a lot of breweries shut their doors that might have been pretty historic and kind of unheard of 5 years ago to ever picture some of these titans of industry going under. And I think it's a difficult time for beer right now. So instead of trying to spread ourselves too thin and open yet another craft beer spot, we wanted to think a little bit outside of the box. It's not too unimaginable to picture myself brewing a different type of fermentable, so we knew we wanted to stay in that realm, and cider seems like a really cool opportunity to diversify a little bit. And that was the original mindset. And I'll be honest, as soon as we got serious about this and started learning what cider could be, it became a lot more exciting than just diversifying a portfolio.
Yeah.
This has very quickly become a real passion. So, yeah, we did this. We did this because we were watching the market and we're a little worried about the future of craft beer. I think it is here to stay, of course, but how many players are we going to have 10 years from now? I don't think anyone can answer that question. I sure can. And Crazy Gnome, we don't plan on going anywhere.
Right.
We're here to stay. But, it's not a bad idea to have some other.
No, and you said it, and we're seeing it in other breweries, being diverse and having other things you can offer, whether it's not just beer. Did you make some or experiment with some ciders at Crazy Gnome before this? Obviously, it's not open yet. But.
Yeah, we did through a series of unusual events. We had the budget and we had the ability to go ahead and apply for our additional permitting that we needed to make cider at the brewery. It is, from a federal perspective, cider is wine. Cider is an unusual animal from a legal perspective. Municipalities don't know how to classify it. Is it wine? Is it beer? I mean, it's neither. It's cider. Cider is cider. Right. Let it be its own thing. But and then write a law about it, tax it however you want. But most municipalities are putting it into either beer or wine, which means you either have to jump through one of the two sets of hoops. Here in Tennessee makes it easy. If it's below a certain ABV threshold, it's beer. If it's above a certain ABV threshold, then it's wine. Cider will fall into the beer category from that perspective. Federally, they look at the ingredients. If it's made of fruit, it's wine. If it's made of grain, it is beer. It doesn't matter what ABV it is. So we had to get a federal winemaking license and a Tennessee beer-making license to make cider.
I'm sure those were easy to get.
Oh, yeah, piece of cake. Government hands these out. No.
Hey, why do you think cider has become so popular?
It's incredible. It's light. It's full flavor. It's everything seltzer wishes it was. It's not. I do think more people are learning about their gluten. Gluten is becoming a pretty big allergen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's any reason for that, any driving factor for that, but cider being naturally gluten-free is nice. It doesn't seem to have it ferments cleaner, and when I say that, I mean the residual sugars are a lot lower in our cider than they are in beer. Even a dry beer does not compare to a dry cider in terms of residual sugar content. And when you're thinking about what gives you a hangover, what makes you feel crappy when you're drinking, it's just as much sugar as it is alcohol. You can, if you're taking shots versus drinking tiki cocktails, you will quickly find that out the next morning. So, being able to have that lightness to it, it's a cleaner drinking beverage, or it can be, and it's more versatile. You can have it sweet. It can be flavored like your favorite fruit, flavored like your favorite spice. It takes on what you want it to very easily.
Do you feel the cider market has a lot more untapped potential,
yes,
say, than beer?
Ooh, then beer. That's interesting. I suppose people know what they know about beer. I think the craft beer market has been really good in educating consumers, and I do think that there's a lot of unique nuances to cider that haven't been appropriately communicated to the consumers out there, and that's a shame because they could be considering cider as an option when maybe they're not because of some misconceptions they have about it. Whereas I think with beer, I think at this point, the average person out there, at least in the U.S., knows what an IPA is. Maybe they don't like it, but they kind of get the idea. And to those who don't like IPAs, I'd say, just try a few more.
Yes. I feel like that includes me.
Yeah. There's going to be one out there.
You'll find the one that's for you.
You'll find the one. It's funny. Obviously we call ourselves the Brewery Underground Podcast, and we talk a lot about craft beer and breweries. But one of the things that Scott and I had talked probably a month and a half ago, as we were getting a lot of these brewery owners on, and they were talking about not opening a cidery necessarily that you are, but just the changes that are going on, that they're now offering more ciders and seltzers. And I said to Scott, I think for me, I'm going to have the summer of seltzers and ciders. I've never really done much of it. I can tell you the seltzers I've had so far, I'm not really a big fan of. Over the weekend, we were at Deep South Growlers in South Nashville. I had the Blake's Hard Cider. It was a cherry limeade, and I really like that. Really like the taste of that. And of course, I'm really liking the taste of yours right here today.
Yeah, absolutely. The seltzers, I know I dissed them earlier. It depends on how you're making them. The seltzers can be a lot of fun. Hey, Crazy Gnome's got a seltzer. We make it pretty high octane, it's pretty high ABV, and we give it a lot of fun flavor. And you know what? In the Tennessee heat, sometimes a seltzer hits.
Yes. And you mentioned it, and some of these ciders, like I'll get some over at Deep South Growler. I had the one he had because I hadn't had it before. I mean, they're 8-9% too, so they're not for the. They might be sweet a lot of times, but they're not for the weak.
So that's true. And with the dry ciders, the fruit will ferment very dry. We talked about that already. And what does that mean? That means you're going to have a decent amount of alcohol, somewhere between mid 6% all the way up to maybe 9%, depending on the varietals of apples that you're using. And also, some people like to increase the sugar content by using a little bit of apple juice concentrate, which Cyanide Cider does not participate in, but I wouldn't necessarily fault a cidery for doing such a thing. The opportunity there for a higher ABV beverage is great. Now, when you're thinking about a flavored cider, usually you are seeing a little bit of a lower ABV because, hey, you're adding something to it, right?
Diluting it in some way.
Yeah, and whether you're diluting it with a juice, a soda, it's going to drop that ABV. But, dropping it to 5%, still middle of the road.
Sure.
Great target.
It really is. It's a really nice kind of point, It's a good average ABV.
Yeah.
This might go along with what you're saying. On your website, it says refined raw products with zero added sugars. Is that pretty much kind of what you're talking about? And I really like the refined raw products part of that.
So this was really important for us, and I am so thankful again that we found the right orchard to work with. We are buying the short acronym for it is NFC, not from concentrate. That's important for us. So we were literally sent a video of our apples being pressed the day before we received or they shipped our juice. So they are really going and doing everything right there, fresh. And oh my goodness, when that juice arrived, the aromas were unbelievable. It was pretty special. I would I'd have a problem if I worked there. Sweet, unfermented cider is good on its own.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet you taste it as it comes in. You want to know what the product is like.
It's good.
Sure. Quality control right there.
Yeah. So that part was important for us. Yeah, you can pick up a pail of, concentrate that will make an okay product. It'll absolutely make an okay product provided you don't keep it dry. That you go ahead and back sweeten it with some flavorings, and you'll mask some of the staleness that a concentrate has. But when you want your dry cider to stand on its own, I mean, we love to take credit, but it starts in the fields. It's really about the quality of the fruit itself.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the Nashville area is, we all know Nashville grows and grows and grows. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the Nashville area really, there's an appetite, more of an appetite for these type of cideries?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Kind of baking on that.
I've made a pretty big bet that there is. No, I think what we've seen in the taproom is more people excited about our cider. That's usually one of the first questions we get from large groups. There's at least one or two people. Hey, what cider do you have? And I think that it's an expectation that there's one available. So I think it's a wonderful starting point. It might only be one tap out of 10, but the expectation is that it's at least one. And so that's pretty cool. And I think we're only going to see that appetite grow over time. I think people are really attracted to the wide variety of flavors that you can get, and it's fun. So I think that's where we're at with the cider appetite here in Nashville. But, Ziskin's killing it.
Yeah.
Nashville Cider Co. Zoo just launched their own cider brands. A lot of people are paying attention to this, and they're coming at it with their own products, and we're really excited to join the marketplace.
And just to sort of follow up on that about the grow too, have you talked to people that are, they live in other cities around the country, and they go, you know what, they've got a lot of cideries here, they're bringing some on. Was that also part of your thinking of going, we really need to get be a part of this?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I used to travel more. Wish I could travel more, but when I do, and every time I end up in a more northern part of the country, cider is everywhere. Yeah. And people are loving it. And yeah, it makes sense. The closer you are to where apples are grown, the cheaper it is to get them shipped to you, and the more affordable and economical it is to start a cidery. And you might also have ties to those orchards. You might actually be able to work with those orchards directly to get custom apple blends, and that's really exciting. Or heck, you might be the orchard itself opening a tap room and doing complete from plant to glass, and that's really cool. And that's definitely a luxury that some of the more northern states are having, and I think the consumers love it. I think when these businesses start up, I think they're a smashing success. I've viewed a few of them. I've been able to go by a few, and they all seem like they're killing it.
Well, with the diversity of Nashville, I would imagine you guys will too.
Oh yeah. I definitely think it's a bummer that there's not more cideries in Nashville.
Yeah.
And we're trying to fix that.
Yep. How crazy, again, you're not open yet, but how crazy, no pun intended, can you get or potentially get with cider flavors or just cider in general? I mean, is the sky the limit?
The sky is the limit, and that's actually really exciting for us because we're taking it one step further. So you mentioned Blake's earlier, they're putting out canned beverages of different flavors, and they can't have that many SKUs. They can refresh them over time and introduce new flavors, but from a practical standpoint, they can only put out so many cans. By keeping things dry until it hits your glass, we're giving you a blank canvas to play with. And that's something that we're really excited about. So we've gotten our hands on a pretty cool soda fountain. We're sporting stubborn sodas, and we're also running a few juices through a carbonation line to turn them into sodas. And when you come in, you can order a sweet cider. So and when I say, I don't mean a sweet cider in that it's unfermented, I mean our dry cider blended in glass with some additional flavorings. And that's going to open the door to non-stop experimentation.
That's okay, and that's part of what I saw on your website too. Choose from one of our many craft sodas, organic juices, or simple syrups to create your own special blend.
Exactly.
That's what that is. Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah. So picture it's the first of fall. We're going to make a pumpkin spice simple syrup. We're going to make a fall spice simple syrup. Oh, we're getting close to December. How about a mulled spice simple syrup? How about a peppermint syrup?
Yes. Are you writing these down?
We're recording it, so I'm going to go back and listen back again.
That's one better.
I'm ready for it.
Do you think potentially? And tell me from when I grew up in upstate New York.
Okay.
And we would go to cideries
Yeah.
in the fall. They were non-alcoholic as far as I could tell.
Right.
But you get the warm cider and stuff. Is there potential, or could you warm ciders in the wintertime and have a line of that, like a warm kind of drink?
We are definitely looking into that. I have had some mulled cider before from a Lexington-based cidery that did an incredible job. This cidery has also done some pretty cool stuff with barrel aging as well, and to some pretty great success. I would say it would make sense. Lexington has pretty good access to bourbon barrels.
I would think so.
But that was my first experience with some mulled hard cider, and it went phenomenally well. It would be pretty simple. You just get a coffee urn and you get it warmed up, and you can seep it over. They did it in a tea bag style. So you get your mulled spices, and you kind of make personalized tea bags, serve a hot cider, and then the customer can decide when they've had enough spice.
Yes.
I let it go pretty long. I want that bold flavor.
Yes. We have it all. That's great. Not the same thing, but I've mentioned before, I've gone to Honey Tree Meadery in East Nashville, kind of near where you guys are. And never been before. First thing I got a flight from them, and the first thing I had was a hot kind of mead, and it was
I think I remember
really
that.
good. It was like a spice winter kind of thing. I just kind of imagine that too at the same time. So
I'm all about the hot beverages in the cold, which for Tennessee is like 3 weeks. Make it work. But we gave it a go at Crazy Gnome, and I don't think the market's ready for it. But we made a hot mulled barley wine, and people weren't as excited about a hot beer as I had hoped they would be.
But you never know. You gotta try.
I made it delicious, and the people that tried it appreciated it. But hot beer doesn't quite have the same ring to it as hot cider.
Yeah.
They'll learn.
They will. Throw a curveball once in a while. Don't let them know what they're drinking necessarily.
So who's been involved with you just in planning all of this?
One of my other owners, of course, is my brother, Bennett, and he's been very helpful in visualizing the space and coming up with how it should look like. He's done a lot of the more artistic direction. A lot of the things that you're going to be touching, such as the flight trays and things like that, are going to be his design completely. He's an incredible, skilled artisan in that regard. If it's made of wood, he made it. That's the general rule of thumb in our tap rooms. He's really good at that. So that's a lot of the taproom based inspiration came from him. Our logo came from one of my buddies that I went to high school with. We've known each other for a while. He has always been into videography and graphic design, and he whipped up this really cool logo with our little poisonous apple.
Yeah.
Friendly and grim at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Where does the cyanide part come from?
Well, so that's fun. Cyanide is naturally occurring from apple seeds.
Perfect. Wow. Okay.
So
Learned something new today.
and one of the older ways, if we're talking going back hundreds of years, of deriving cyanide poison was from grinding up and distilling and pulling out the essence of apple seeds.
So no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Plus alliteration is fun.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Go back a minute. You talked about barrel aging.
Yeah.
Bourbon, whiskey. That would be awesome. I can imagine what that's like. Any other types of wine probably wouldn't work, right? Is it too similar?
It might be too similar. Honestly, the reason we barrel age in bourbon barrels is there's a market of used bourbon barrels out there, and there just isn't with wine. You got to spend a lot more money because you can use a wine barrel multiple times and still get utility out of it. So when it comes time to sell a wine barrel, it's usually not in the best shape, and it doesn't have too much use left in it. And if it does have use left in it, that has value, so they're going to be selling it at a higher dollar value. Yeah. The bourbon barrels, for it to be bourbon, it has to be in a new whiskey barrel, and Jack Daniel's believes in the same mantra, so they're also using new barrels every time they distill. So there are graveyards full of these barrels that are just perfect for aging other spirits in. So that's a very practical answer as to why we see more bourbon-aged things than we do any other spirit.
Sure, and it's also delicious.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
That's very true.
Have you been somewhere that's had it, or have you experimented with it, with barrel aging any yet?
Yeah, we haven't experimented with barrel aging it. I have had it, and it is very good. The fruitiness. I mean, I have to describe it as an old fashioned. You look at an old fashioned is sugar, fruit, spirit, right? And that is what you have your fruity apple cider, and you have the spirit punch from the barrel. It's an old fashioned in a glass, and it's pretty phenomenal.
And not to mention maybe some of the fruitiness that comes from the barrel and the whiskey itself too, so make a nice little mixture.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Oh boy. That's really good.
It's going to be great getting here. About how many taps are you going to have normally?
So we are going to have 16 taps, and a lot of those are going to be beer. So we are probably going to be hovering around 2 to 4 cider taps. I alluded to earlier that all of our stuff is dry, so because we're not blending in the back of house and we're blending in the front of house, we don't need as many taps.
Okay.
So think of our cider as base spirits.
Yep.
We're going to have the bourbon, the gin, the vodka, cider. And then in the hands of our bartenders and you're going to be able to craft a really cool blended cider there in the glass. And that's where we can really take on a pretty huge menu with just those 4 taps. I'm not saying we're modeling our ciders after spirits per se, but we'll have the Dabinette. We'll have something modeled after an apple, or we'll have something modeled after a country of origin, like British style, Irish style, French style, those sort of things, and that'll give us the base that we need to take it one step further with additional blending in your glass in the front of house.
That is a lot of fun. Again, the sky's the limit, and you can get as nutty or crazy as you want to with it. Just experiment with things and see if they work.
Exactly right.
That's got to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I actually want to come do that and just experiment with things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're making it easy. So we're not doing flights because we don't have the high variety. Instead, we're doing mixing stations.
Okay.
So how that's going to work is it'll be similar to, you get a flight board, but there'll be 2 alcoholic and 2 non-alcoholic options, and you get an empty glass. And we're putting the cider in science beakers. So you're gonna actually be able to say, okay, I'm putting 50 milliliters in my empty glass of the hard cider, and then I'm also going to put in 50 milliliters, do a 50-50 ratio of pineapple soda or whatever you want to mix it with, and give it a sip. Oh, yeah, that was good, but it was too sweet for me. So maybe now I'm going to try 60-40. I'm going to try, no, actually, I wanted it sweeter. Maybe I'm going to go flip it the other direction. And you got to play with your food.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love that? And then you can kind of learn how our mixing works. The next time you order a full pour of a beer, you can say, oh, I want the 70% pineapple soda, 30% cider. That's how I like it.
Yes.
Do you think do you think the cider crowd and the craft beer crowd are totally different?
No, I think they're the same.
Yeah.
I think that, well, if it's a Venn diagram, there's a big middle.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
I agree. Yeah.
Go back real quick. I imagine what you were talking about is having your little, you're two alcoholic and I'm alcoholic, and you've got a table of 4 or 6 people, but friends, and everybody's got something different.
Oh, yeah.
And just, what'd you do there? And what did you do? Let's try this. And that is cool. Just that experience and sitting around. It'd just be a lot of fun, too, at the same time.
Yeah. We're really excited. No one else that I've seen is doing anything like that.
That's creative. It really is.
And it gives you all the control.
Yeah.
To make something that is perfect for your palate.
And I think that's what you're seeing more of that everywhere. It's not just going there and eating and drinking, whatever it is. People want that experience.
Yeah.
They want to go home afterwards and say, that was a really neat place to go to. It was something different we've not been to before, and that's how you get people back.
Absolutely. I can confidently say, right now, anyway, I'm sure we'll start a trend, but we will be the only place you can drink out of science beakers in Nashville.
I hope you have a lot of them, because I wouldn't steal them.
They're not branded. They're not branded, and they don't say Nashville on them. We don't want people to
That's exactly right.
Steal science beakers.
That's cool. I mean, not that I ever would, but that's fun. Let's talk about the building. Yeah, and the layout. We're looking at it here. You're still doing some construction, but you're really close to being done. Looking at a beautiful mural.
Yes.
That I just saw posted on Instagram today. The whole thing. Will you talk about your layout and what you have kind of planned for this building?
Yeah. So we divided the cidery to be into 2 main sections. You walk in the front door, and you are in this rustic, wood-heavy, old-school pharmacy-style building that is going to have the kitchen. It's going to have a couple of restrooms in the bar, and it's going to have some limited seating. And you're going to be able to get acquainted with the menu, put in your order, everything. There's going to be a little bit of TV going on, of course, but it's going to be a pretty low-key type of feeling. Ceilings also happen to be a little lower, it's cozier, and then you can walk into our big room, and our big room is where we're doing the production. All of a sudden you're jumping from 10-foot ceilings to 20-foot ceilings, and it's grander. We brightened it up with some bright, fun colors. We're really embracing pink in this one, and it's got a brighter energy, a lot more natural light as well. And it's a completely different feeling. It's a lot more casual, and it's a completely different vibe. So we're kind of embracing a duality of feeling. So whatever your style is, I think you're going to be comfortable here.
Yeah.
That's very nice. What's the square footage of that? Because the space we're in is really big.
Yeah, it feels big. I think we utilize the space pretty well. We're hovering at around 3,000 square feet, which is about the same size as our brewery. The only difference is I think we've done a better job utilizing the space, making it more of an open floor plan, segregating the 2 halves, but bringing the production space right in front of your face. You're going to be able to see all the tanks, see the behind the scenes, unlike the brewery where it's kind of hidden away, so it feels a lot bigger.
You can actually hear fermentation going on right now.
You're going to love that.
Right there. Fantastic.
We're just like 20 feet from it.
Yeah.
Or eventually you're going to be selling cans of your cider?
Yes, so we're really excited about that. our tanks are big enough, the operation's big enough to where we can do some canning. We're not going to be opening with cans, we're going to be opening with bottles, so you will be able to grab some cider to go in some bottles. So we'll be able to take care of you there, but the goal is to get a mobile canning company to come in and help us package a decent amount of material so that we can get it out to market. You might be able to find it in some of the stores around town or maybe in some bars, and it should be great.
What about distribution? Do you guys distribute now, or is that something you're looking at doing so you can get it outside of the tap room?
Yeah, we are definitely taproom centric, and it is our priority to maximize the tap room. But again, being a little bit bigger than the brewery and having that opportunity to create bigger batches gives us the opportunity to do a little more distribution as well. We haven't signed on with the distributor. Tennessee allows you to self-distribute within your state. So we'll probably be doing that. We'll probably take on a couple of accounts. It will be something that we're going to be a little choosy about. We don't want to overextend ourselves. When we take on a new account, it becomes, an extension of our own identity. So we take that pretty seriously. But yeah, that's our plan with distribution. Keeping it simple.
I feel like you are a really good success story. And I really do. I mean, we love telling stories here on the podcast, and I know when we had you on, a few months ago, and talking about everything that you went through when you tried to start Crazy Gnome and all of that happened. But you've come a long way. I mean, you got Crazy Gnome, you got that off the ground during when you got hit by a tornado, and then also we all know what happened during the pandemic, and now you're opening up a cidery. I mean, have you had time to look back, take a breath, and go, yeah, this is all happening?
Talk to me after this place.
Yeah.
You take a breath.
Yeah, no, it has been really exciting to start to pick up the momentum, and we've been really grateful for this opportunity. And this cidery represents us doubling down and committing to doing this real and expanding and getting bigger and getting more mature as a company. This build out is a lot more mature than our previous build out because we've learned and grown so much as a company and as our ownership. So we're absolutely ecstatic that we can be here and talking about this project, and it's terrifying at the same time because we bet big on the brewery, but we bet bigger on this one. And so we're really hoping that people are on board with us for this next step as well, because we are certainly banking that they are.
Sure.
And will you have any kind of advertising, or when you're over at Crazy Gnome, like, hey, go check out the cidery?
Oh yeah. So we've been doing that for a while, and you'll always be able to find Cyanide Cider on tap at the brewery. Okay. Likewise, you might see a couple of guest taps of Crazy Gnome beer here.
Of course.
And so we're the same company.
Sure.
You might even see some of your favorite bartenders working both spots. So we're all one big family, and we're not going to pretend like we're not. So we have different visions and different paths to success, but we're on the same team.
And one can kind of feed the other too at the same time. And they come in here, this place is great. Oh, by the way, there's a brewery across town that you might want to go check out too that we own.
I love coming to Cyanide, but it's not my part of town. Well, maybe we are in your part of town with the other concept.
And we all know, because we're the same way, we're craft beer guys. Now we're becoming cider guys. I am, at least, right? I'm going to become a cider guy. But we all know people go out of town. They want to hit breweries. Yep. They're going to come into Nashville now, and they're going to hit breweries and go, by the way, we got a cidery you need to check out, too. So I see what part of your master plan is here.
Oh, yeah. We're just, it was all SEO. What can I say?
Do you see, this is probably further down the road, but the Music City Hop Trolley
Brew Hop Trolley.
We're gonna
Follow Music Trolley.
Follow Music City Brew Hop on Instagram for your chance to get cheap tickets to a really cool experience of hop on, hop off. It's your Uber for the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool company. We're proud to be stop number 1 over at Crazy Gnome. Are we going to be on the trolley on the West Loop? I hope so. Write in to Adam at Music City Brew Hop. Say, we need Cyanide on the loop. Well, Adam's great, and his whole business is great, and he's got to do what's right. It's whether or not we fit into the traffic.
Sure, it's got to be efficient. Right?
Yeah, and he's talking about switching it up to where there might be some people on a rotational basis. I'm fairly confident that we're going to, at least on a rotational basis, be one of your stops on the Brew Hop Trolley. Whether we are or not, you should still check them out because they're a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, he is coming on with us very soon.
Cool.
Yes, we'll be at 7/10, I think, July 10th.
Yeah,
All right, we'll play this clip.
Absolutely. We're going to go back to this. He reached out to us on Instagram a couple of months ago, and he mentioned coming on. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And he gave us a couple. We've not done them yet, but we've got a couple of passes, and so you could be a really good guest too, and just talk about that whole dynamic. And that perspective.
Man. I will look forward to that episode because I would love to hear him talk about his relationship with craft beer in Nashville. Because, I'm shocked that he was the first to do something like this. Boy, was it needed, and he's finding some great success with it. And anyone who's on his route loves him.
Awesome.
I've been somewhere when that trolley pulls up.
Yeah.
And if I need a beer, I need to jump ahead of that crowd getting all that. It's going to be 15 minutes before I get there. Because they're loaded down pretty good when I see them get them off there.
Yeah.
When you picked this location or this location, were demographics something you considered as far as, and I don't know what's around here, walk-up traffic, people that live around here, other businesses?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we are moving into a more Hispanic part of town, and we were intentional actually with a lot of the choices that we made. So we are committing to having at least a quarter of our staff bilingual. We're pretty happy to report that our hiring goals are in alignment with that right now. So we're going to have people working here that can engage with the people that live here. Mm-hmm. And we're not trying to be a gentrifying force in a negative sense.
Sure.
Right? We are cleaning up our block. That's without a question. We're not going to tolerate tomfoolery. We're not going to tolerate the trash that gets left in our parking lot. We're going to keep things clean. But if you live here, you're welcome here. And it doesn't matter who you are or what your background is. And so knowing what we know about the demographics of this neighborhood, we've made decisions to ensure that that is a true statement, that we're actually going to be able to follow through on that statement. So that was really important for us. It was even important with our food choice, right? With the Berry of Big tacos, right? We wanted to pick a cuisine that was organic to the neighborhood.
With this location, you mentioned it earlier, you are near Jodas, which is the Nashville Soccer Club home park. This is going to be a pregame spot. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely it is. And we are ready for it. Yeah. And, I mentioned that half of the building is bright, fun, and ready for it. And we were kind of going for that, exciting soccer bar vibe. And we're still working out the kinks on a projector, but we're going to be doing our best to be able to have a soccer sports package.
Yeah.
And,
that's cool.
Can I put a date on that? No, but it is coming, and you will be able to enjoy that stuff to the fullest here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool, because any place along that route, because you can't really park over there.
Right.
A lot of walk-up traffic. Smoking thighs over there is cleaning up right now because the foot traffic that comes by. I imagine.
I heard of a new brewery that opened That is
broadcast.
Yeah, they're only open on game days. That's their whole taproom strategy is Geodis. I love it.
Broadcast brewing. I've been a couple of times. He's back there. He's off the little beaten path. He's got his little spot over. Mike, really nice guy.
I've heard nothing but good things. I need them to be open on more boring days. The industry people want to come, man. Let us have an industry day.
That's right.
It's once a month.
Yes. Yeah, it's a really cool spot over there, too. I think he said it was like 10 years in the making. He was going to do it, then life took over, and they decided to kind of get back into it.
I am positive I understand.
Do you use different yeast for cider than you do beer? And I'm sure it's different, or
it's a good question, and the answer is it depends. There are yeast strains that can handle both beer and cider equally well, and there are yeast strains that are more specified to one or the other. And we are going to be using both. So we are in the process of using a pretty cool cider-based yeast strain that's supposed to bring out the fruitiness of the cider. We're really interested in seeing, this is actually my first time using this yeast. I didn't do a test batch, I just went full into it.
It's going to be what it's going to be, right?
Yep, and I think it's going to be great. But the advantage of using a yeast like that, if it plays out the way that the papers I've read on it is for our dry ciders, we have no sugar to rely on, so anything that can accent those fruity notes is going to trick you into thinking that it's more sugary than it really is.
Okay.
So that for us is a positive thing. Then we're also going to be using some farmhouse beer strains, and those are really cool when we're wanting to embrace some of the more funky elements that the cider from France tends to lean towards. So when we're talking about French cider, we're talking about a lot of mild fermentation elements, and we're not necessarily set up to do true mild fermentation here, but we can choose some yeast strains that are more farmhouse oriented. I'm not going to be more specific than that because I'm not sure that people are using exactly what we're using, but if they could probably put it together. But the advantages of using that are some really cool phenolics that get expressed when you use some of these more funky yeast strains that are available for beer.
And that's got to be a great resource. We didn't really get into this. You mentioned this actually in the Crazy Gnome podcast about Europe.
Yeah.
And French maybe specifically do a lot of ciders, a lot of dry ciders. So you kind of have that as a resource maybe too, not to fall back on necessarily, but...
Oh my goodness. I mean, the French have a segment of their government related to cider making. There are papers being published every year about different methods and results and why it should be done the French way. And I think that variety is the spice of life, but darn it, those French make a good cider.
Yeah, they know what they're doing, right?
They're at the forefront.
Yeah, they are on to something with their methodology, and we are going to be doing our best to emulate the flavor profile. The problem and the reason we will never be able to truly emulate the French style is it starts in the orchard. Yeah. And they're able to use some of the wild yeasts that are naturally occurring in their region that are on the skins of the fruit to do an initial fermentation. I'm not buying my apples from France.
No. Not practical.
And I'm not entirely sure those wild yeasts would survive the flight.
It's true.
Yeah.
So even if we could buy apples and mill them ourselves and do everything that they're doing, I don't think we'd end up with the same result.
Probably not, right?
So they get to have their magic in a glass, and I encourage you to try some French cider if you haven't. It is from France. It is great, and it is available here in the U.S. Okay. They check any liquor store; they'll probably have a bottle or two. It's a really cool beverage, but we can get there. We can get there using our brewing knowledge and what we know about how different yeasts express different flavors. We can get something that's as close as you're going to get without having a valley in your country that has an abundance of incredible levels.
Right, the perfect storm for that over there, yeah.
Right.
Well, we got there with you today on Cyanide Cider. At the time we're recording this, this is not open yet, but when the podcast releases, you all will be open, and get over here, everybody. Try some cider. Grayson's been working hard, and
he was working when we walked in the door.
That's right. You were
hanging stuff on the wall.
Like literally, like we'll be with you in a few minutes, Mel. It was all good though. But
I got one more thing I want to say though.
Yep.
If I can challenge the set of questions were different for us because it was a cidery versus a brewery. Now we hadn't been here, we've had cider, but we had to mold the questions a little bit, which made it cool, and we had to make it a little more creative than we normally did because we really didn't know anything about cider. So I just mentioned that because I had to change my mindset a little bit. You know, beer. You know, and it's and, you know, we didn't ask the same questions all the time, but it was cool to kind of change gears a little bit. I guess is what I'm saying.
And I'm learning because I'm on the cidery tour this week. So
he's picking up.
I'm going to report back on another podcast down the road. All right. Hey, Grayson, we appreciate it, and I'm sure we will catch up with you soon. Cyanide Cider, come on out. And for Scott Touron, I'm Steve Sullivan, and this has been the Brewery Underground Podcast.
Cheers.